Hello crafters, I'm Jan B and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. Today I'm going to show you how I made this card, which I'm calling an Eclipse-like card. An Eclipse card is one where the letters are die cut and then raised so you can see the coloured cardstock underneath. And that's basically what I've done with this one as well, although it's not raised as high as I've done on the letters. So I'm calling it an Eclipse-like card. When I made this one, I also made this one with the snow on it, and I wasn't quite sure which way I preferred it, and this was a prototype card initially. I put these two cards onto Facebook and I asked the question with or without snow, and I was amazed at the huge response I received to that question. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you very, very much if you're any of the people who did respond. Really, really appreciated. But it was really very interesting. I think the majority of people went for the snow, but not by a huge amount. A lot of people liked it without. There were some people who liked the snow who said but with less snow. Some people said they preferred to have the sentiment up at the top. There was one or two people who suggested having some sparkle on the snow as well. I still can't quite decide which way I feel, but I did make this one since I received the response from Facebook. And on this one, what I've done is I've moved the sentiment to the top, I've done less snow, and I've put some Wink of Stella on it. Don't know if you're going to be able to see that or not. Oh, I think sometimes you can, yes. So this is the one I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to change my colour scheme. I'm going to be using Elegant Eggplant. So the card pieces that you're going to be needing is, the card base is Whisper White, and that should be 8 1/4 inches by 5 3/4 inches, scored and folded at 4 1/8. That's 21 centimetres by 14.5 centimetres, scored and folded at 10.5 centimetres. And then you need 2 pieces of Elegant Eggplant, which measure 4 inches by 5 5/8 inches, which is 10.25 by 14.25 centimetres. Then you need 1 piece of Whisper White, which measures 3 7/8 inches by 5 1/2 inches, which is 10 by 14 centimetres. And then the Whisper White piece for the top layer on the front of the card, you need this to be a tad over 3 7/8, because where we're going to cut this, one piece is going to be slightly overlapping the one underneath, and that's why on these two you can see so much card at the bottom here but nowhere near as much at the top. I didn't allow for the fact that this would overlap. Okay, so this really does need to be a tad over 3 7/8. It was almost 3 15/16, but not quite. What I would suggest is, if you're not very sure, it's probably better to go a little bit, make it more towards the 4 inches, because once you've done the pieces you could slice a piece off the top or the bottom. But I'm sure if you just do a tad over 3 7/8 it'll be fine. If I can show you how this lines up, give you an idea. You can see how much of a gap I've got at either side there, but it's nowhere near as, oh, you can hardly see that. It's hardly any of a gap down here. That's more normal, but that is going to be more exposed by the time I've cut this and raised it out. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do Joy to the World up there, and that is from the Hearts Come Home stamp set. The dies I'm going to be using, they're the Hometown Greetings, which coordinate with this set, and I'm going to be using this die. And the reason I'm not going to be using these ones is because where I have done, I've put dimensionals behind these, it's very difficult trying to do such tiny little pieces. But if you do the church with the house, you've got quite a large area there to put dimensional on, or part of a dimensional. Let's move that out of the way so you can see there, just underneath that bit. And for the house, you've got this as well with that piece. So it's a lot easier. I mean, I did manage with when I did the other one, but it was a lot of fiddling about trying to get bits in there. So if you want to try this, I do recommend you do this. Or if you've got any other dies that you think, oh, I could do that with whatever, just make sure towards the top you've got a decent area where you can put dimensionals or parts of dimensionals. So what I'm going to do first, as I say, is the Joy to the World, and I've used my Stamp-a-ma-jig to get this set up because it's got to be really quite close to the top. So I'm just going to line this up on my grid paper. So that's got to be going onto that line. And 1, 2, 3, right, okay. So I know that that is in the centre of that piece there. And I'm going to do that about there. I'm going to bring it a bit closer to me. I think that probably looks about right. Fortunately, you don't need this to be absolutely straight because it's actually on a bit of a curve. Right. So this is Elegant Eggplant ink. This is my stamp. Just make sure I get it up the right way. Just stuck my finger in that. There we go. And this stamp has been designed so there's little breaks in the letters. It's not a fault with my stamping. Okay, so there's that. The next thing we need to do is to die cut the church and the house. So I'm going to bring my Big Shot up. Right, I'm going to move it over there to start with. Right, I have my magnetic platform underneath here. So this is the die. So face down. It's quite a tall one, which is why this needs to be quite close to the top. But fit this so that it's about equal distance in from either side. And the only other thing you need to make sure of is, assuming that you've cleared the sentiment, is to make sure the top of the house is straight. Okay, and that's why I've brought this over here so that I can... It doesn't look very straight, does it? That's better. Okay, so I'm a lot happier with that. Put the other cutting mat on top. And I'll bring this over so that it's more in sight. Right, so I'm going to crank it through and then I'm going to bring it back again. And then without lifting it up, I am just going to turn it that way round, making sure that the die doesn't come away from the paper. I'm going to put the second cutting mat back on again I'm going to crank it through once, and then I'm going to bring it through again. Right, I'll take that. Now I'm going to need this again in a moment, but I'm going to move it out of the way just for a jiffy. And I'm going to bring over my die brush just to remove all the little bits. There we go. Yes, that's everything moved. And everything apart from that one little bit up there has come out as well. There we go. That's a very, very useful little tool, that die brush. It comes with that little sponge mat as well if you want to buy one. So right, finished with that. Now we need to cut from there to the edge and from there to the edge. It really doesn't matter where you cut. I just imagine that this is a hill that's sloping downwards and that one's more straight. So just cut straight towards it. And then again the same for this side. Okay, now if you don't want, I'm going to be putting this through the softly falling embossing folder, but if you want to keep this plain, don't do this next step. Okay, so this is where I need to bring the Big Shot over again. And this time I'm going to be using the Big Shot platform, but without the other sheet that comes with it, which is the thin die adapter. There's one cutting mat. This is the softly falling embossing folder. Now with the Sizzix facing you, and then with the front of this bit facing you, joy to the world. Now you decide whether you want a lot of snow, which is that one up there, or not much, which is down there, or a medium amount in the middle there. Okay, so I'm going to do it down lower because I do think I like the look of it with less snow. So when you put the big embossing folders like this, the 6-inch ones, through your Big Shot, make sure you put your fold in the folder going through the Big Shot first, and also make sure that you've got all this lined up here and here so it's not catching on the edges as you're putting it through. That only needs to go through once. So let's just move that out of the way again. We've finished with that now. And here we have just a little bit of snow. So there's that. So what we need is to adhere this on to this piece. Now what I do with this is I do cut up lots of bits and pieces to use as my dimensionals for that. But first of all I'm going to pop this onto my card, my elegant eggplant layer. You could use fast fuse for this if you prefer. Tearing tape would be alright, but it's you'd have fun and games trying to get around the cutout areas. Right, so I'm going to place that so it's got the right amount of borders everywhere. I think that looks right. So hopefully when I put this piece on it, it's going to get up to the right level. So to do my pieces on here, I prefer to use, in fact I think, oh no, maybe not. I was going to say I think I've used them all nearly. I prefer to use these outside bits on the long side on the small dimensionals. That really is lovely and thick. But as I say, I have been using these. So first of all what I do is cut that one there and pull that. So pop that one along there. Now I need another one. So I'm going to use the one along here. So if I pop that there to see how much I need, I think I'll go up to about there. Oh, that's it. And then I'm going to use some small dimensionals just to fill up a little bit of the gap there. Okay, so that's fine. I think if I remember rightly, there's one whole one there. So then I go, oh here's, now this is a good bit to use as well. So what I use on here, I don't know what I've done there, ruined that bit. So let's get rid of that, we don't want to use that. So what I do is I just take my scissors and I just cut up thin little strips. And because this is like a zigzag line, it means I finish up with different lengths of small pieces. And then what I do is I take my tweezers and then decide whether I need a big bit or a small piece. That's a good one in there. As for the trees, that's a good piece. And then if I find I don't have enough pieces for the smaller areas, then I will take these and cut them in half. That's a bit wide. Could do that with that being a bit more narrow or narrower. So let's take that. We'll use that one up there. That one can go in there. I cut that pointy bit off there, that'll be right. Be able to use that. Let's get rid of that, otherwise it'll get stuck on something. Do I need anything else here? I want something on that little bit there. So it should be a bit of a triangle. I wonder if I can get that as a... Do it the other way round. Doing this is so much easier if you're using a pair of tweezers. Right, now I need some just thin straight pieces. So let's see if I can cut those from here like thin. Got 3 in one here. Got an extra bit of paper there. One for the side of the house. That little one would be good for the tree. Don't think I need anything else now, do I? Maybe one there, but that would be a complete. Right, that's it. I'm happy with that. So let's take off these little ones first. That one's already off. Some of these papers do tend to develop a life of their own, I'm afraid. They fight back. Come on, go away. It's determined, is it? But I won. Right. That's everything now, I think. Yep. Oh, not that one. So now just these 2 long ones. There we go, there's that one. I'll do another long one here. And now it's trying to get this lined up. Basically what you're trying to line up here is you want this straight edge here to line up with the straight edge down there. You want this straight edge lining up down here. You want to try and get the same amount of gap here as you've got up there. And the biggest bit to try and line up is where you put the trees down. You want to get it so that you've got a little bit of the elegant eggplant showing through. Let me show you. Can you see how you can see the island indigo through there? Okay, so if you do those and then you're lining up these bits as well, you're good to go. Let's get that unstuck from my finger. I'm going to use my tweezers to get this one down. Right. I'm lining up the Christmas trees first. I don't think this right hand is quite lined up straight. Right, I think that's it. Let me have a look. This bit needs to come up slightly. Right. So I'm happy with that. You see the gap all the way around? That obviously is good because I did that to start off with, but that's not bad at all. Quite pleased with how that one's turned out. So I'm just going to pop this onto the front of my card, and the only bit that I have left, off of camera I will go and put the Wink of Stella onto the snowflakes. I'll just do 2 or 3 so that you can see how much I do. Alright, so line that up nicely in the centre. And then on the inside of the card, I'll do the elegant eggplant part first. There we go. Now before I stick this in, I'm going to do the Father Christmas that I've been doing on the inside of all my cards. Okay, that is still from this stamp set. It was that little bit there that I've used. So that's my elegant eggplant ink. And I left this arrow on here from the other day, if you saw the wreath card that I did. I thought that's a jolly good idea, especially if you're like me and you don't put pictures on the back of your stamps. There we go. That looks quite wet. I think I might have re-inked that stamp pad quite recently, because it certainly looks very moist. I'm just being careful that I don't smudge it. Right. There we go. So there we go, that's today's card. I think overall I probably prefer the less snow. Right, with my Wink of Stella, all I did was I went over each little snowflake. Okay, and I'll come back and do this afterwards. You can see it, but I don't know that it's actually shining. But it does shine, it looks really lovely. Very subtle, but very nice. So there's that one that I've done. This one with no snow. This one I did after I posted these two to Facebook. So much nicer, I think. But still interested to hear your opinions with snow, without snow. But I definitely think that the sentiment at the top as well, and I think the church is the best out of all of it. Many thanks for joining me today. If you have any comments or any questions, please leave them in the box below. If you'd like to purchase any of the products that I featured here today, I'll put a link in the box below that will take you straight to my 24/7 online Stampin' Up shop. And I will put also in the box all the products that I've used and also the measurements that I've used. So depending on what device you're watching this on, underneath the video there'll either be where it says show more, or it'll have 2 little down arrows. Click on whichever, it'll open the box up everything will be in there for you. If you've enjoyed my video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you feel inclined to give me a thumbs up, that would be really greatly appreciated too. Many thanks for joining me today. Until next time, happy crafting. Cheerio.